Hello, this is Lisa Russick with the podcast We Are All Psychic, and yes, I think we're all psychic still. So if you're watching this video on Spotify, it's just me, and I have some trippy psychedelic kind of effects going on that came with my photo booth on my Mac, and it kind of is fitting with what I'd like to talk about today. So when I was younger, the first time I think I tried this probably was when I was about 5 or 6, and I think we all have. If you have grown up in our culture, maybe they do this in other cultures, I don't know. But we have a game called Hot and Cold. If you haven't played Hot and Cold, it's usually a kid's game. And what you do, let's say we're in this room, and I have my eyes closed, and there's another person, pretend, maybe you. And I have my eyes closed, or maybe I'm in another room, and you go and put, like, let's see, this magic potion that Akasha gave me. Akasha gave me this Psychic Vampire Be Gone magic potion. Or, I'm sorry, oil. I like calling them potions still. I know they're magic oils, though. Or are they something else now? I don't know. So you're going to put this somewhere in this room, and then I come back in, and you're going to say, okay, and you're going to sit down in the middle of the room, and I'm going to wander around the room. And you're going to say hot if I get close to it. And you're going to say cold, cooler, cooler, cold, the farther away I get from it. So the closer I get, warm, warmer, warmer. And then if I get really close, hot, 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 hot. See, all this got red, got excited. And if I'm getting far away, cold, cold. So this is what I want to explain to you with the psychic energy. You can play that game with the psychic energy too, by yourself, because there's no such thing as coincidences. If you are a regular listener, you may remember several seasons ago when Misty and I did the Crystal podcast. It's a Working with Crystals podcast, and I do believe that is our very first video podcast on Spotify, but it's also on YouTube. That is around the time they gave us the permission to go ahead and early access for an indie podcast to do video podcasts on Spotify. So that was really exciting for us. And I love doing video stuff. So as you know, and I love doing tech stuff, as you know. If you didn't, I love doing videos and tech stuff. So Misty and I were doing the Crystal podcast, and we were talking about different ways to pick out crystals. And I usually look at them, and I just draw them to one. You know, usually it's the first one I see. Sometimes not. Sometimes I'll dig through them, and but I still like that first one. Now, Misty, on the other hand, she does hot or cold. But what we discussed in that podcast is that it's called, well, we called it, Misty and I called it energy warm. So when she looks for a crystal, she waits to pick up one that feels warm to her, and then it feels like that's her crystal. So she would, but during that podcast, she would say, you know, this is one I picked up because it was warm and it was felt this way. And that's when we came up with this energy warm, because it doesn't feel temperature warm, like physically warm. Like this phone is not warm, but energy warm is, say, when something is charged with energy, or something is, it's hard to explain what energy warm is, but if you have ever been like Misty and picked out a rock and it felt kind of warm, but you know it's not. It's like, how did that happen? It's energy warm. It's the best way we can find to explain it. So that is how you play hot and cold with psychic stuff. And not like the game, but for you to find stuff of your own that you lost, or just find something to look at, and your intuition's wanting you to go look. This is how I found out when I was younger. I was about 15, I think. This is around when I started reading palms. And if you listen to the podcast about St. Florian, that was around the time I was finding stuff of his around the house. And I went to another town to see St. Florian and all this stuff. If you listen to that podcast, I think that one was called, it was just a few podcasts ago. I don't remember, but it was just me talking. And so I started I can't remember what made me start doing it. I just felt like a tug. It's the only best way to put it, like a tug. This is before I believed I was psychic, or that there were spirit guides or anything like that. At this time, I was talking with Sam, but I thought he was a character in my head in a book I was writing. Which, you know, most authors will tell you they talk to their characters in their heads, right? So I jumped ahead by accident. This is what I tried when I was 15. And then when I was 24 and talking with Sam, I did it again. So when I was 15, I first felt that tug. So what is that tug like? It feels like, it doesn't feel like a physical tug. It feels like a kind of like a something pulling on my aura. Something kind of saying, come on, come this way. Come this way. Come look over here. Or it could be pulling me this way. It could be pulling, like, it's like a pull or but what am I explaining, right? So, for example, when I was 15, I lost my diary and I couldn't find it. And I was like, well, let me try being psychic. So I like closed my eyes and I just tried not tracing my steps. And this is when I first felt the tug. So the tug came a lot more when I was 24. So I was sitting on my bed, just like, and then I felt that kind of like pull, like right through here, like go this way. And I was sitting on, like, here's my bed. Like, if you're not watching, it's like a bed. Now I'm lying on the left side, or is that the right side? I don't know. It's a side with my ring on it. And it was just like, I was sitting kind of like sideways, you know, and I felt this tug. I just don't know how to explain it. I'm trying to think of the best way. It's almost like somebody had a string around my whole body, or like a lasso or something, but it's not touching my skin or my body, and I'm just being pulled anyway. I guess it would be like gravity. I don't know if that pulls or pushes. I'm not sure. Nobody is, I guess. Or maybe somebody is. But I think that what I did was I felt crazy, but I stood up, and then I felt the tug pulling me forward. And usually I kept my diary in between my mattresses or in like buried in some books in my bedstand table. And it was pulling me, and I didn't know why. And it pulled me to the closet, and the closet was closed, and I opened it, and then it pulled me down. Like when I say it pulled, it wasn't pulling me. It was suggesting that I pull down. The feeling of it was that the energy, now I would use the word, my energy was being kind of, hey, guided to this position. So I squatted down, and then I felt like with this hand, like a pull. Go this way. And then my eyes hit my diary right as my hand was about to reach it. And it was like under some shoes in my closet. I must have thought I wrote something really bad or something I didn't want anyone to find in that diary. But when I was 24, I started actually practicing this. And the first time I practiced it, I was just, I was sitting in, I think my parents' old house had a den and a living room. And their kitchen was in between and a hallway and stairs, lots of stairs in that house. And I was in the den, and I was like, well, I'm bored. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to space out. I love spacing out and watching TV back then. So I was spacing out and listening to TV, and I was thinking about all kinds of stuff, about Sam and about the juju. But I didn't know what it was. I was thinking about the book I was writing with Sam in it, and I was thinking, and that book was about magic and stuff. So I was thinking about all that kind of stuff, making up plots and stories, and then my mind just kind of went blank, and I started thinking about, am I psychic again, or can I do this stuff? Can I find something? And I was like, and I remembered when I was younger looking for that diary, and I was like, I'll try that again. So, but I didn't have anything to look for. And I said, well, what if I just let it take me somewhere, and let's see what it says? So I just kept my eyes closed, and I was breathing, and I felt the tug. I felt that tug. Like I was lying back on the couch, and I felt the tug all along my right side. So I got up, and I waited, and I didn't feel anything for a second, and then I felt like behind me a tug, and the door was like this way to my right and behind, my left and behind me. And I went that way. I got to the door, and nothing happened. And then I felt like a pull through my chest and my front side go forward. And I went forward and up the stairs and into the kitchen. And when I got to the kitchen, I didn't feel anything, and I waited for a second, and then I felt like a pull to go around the corner into the hallway by the front door. So I did that. And then I felt a pull to go to the left into the living room. Now, the living room in that house was like a library. All two walls of the room were covered in bookcases and books. And there was a piano and a couch and a big window. So I walked in, and I'm like, well, what do I do in here? And then I just kind of knew that I was supposed to get a book. Of course, it's a room full of books. Of course, that's what I'm supposed to look for. But I was like, whoa, there's a lot of books in here. How am I going to narrow it down? And what is it going to be? And how could it be special? So I kind of just sat there. And this is when the hot and cold started. The tugging stopped and the hot and cold started. So this is the energy hot and cold. Not like the thing I was looking for was on fire or on a heating pad like me. But this was... this was crazy for me at that time. It really blew my little mind. So I felt the warm, I walked into the room and I felt the warmth more behind me, and it felt like I was getting colder, in energy cold. And so I stepped back to where I was and I felt warm again. And then I felt more warmth on this side than I did on this side where the piano is. And there were books on this side. So I walked over to those books and I stood in front of them. And I felt pretty like that warmth feeling, but I felt it really strongly at the bottom shelf of that bookshelf. So I squatted down and I looked, and there were my old yearbooks and from elementary school. Yeah. And one was really, really hot. That's the best way I can explain it. I looked at it and I just knew it was the hot one. That's the one I was supposed to get. Why? Who sent me this way? Why am I supposed to? What's going on? I didn't think about that. I just picked out the yearbook, opened the book, and there was a picture of me. And I was waving my hand. A little 5-year-old me. I might find that diary someday if I ever, not diary, I mean yearbook. I'm going to see my parents soon, so maybe Mom will still have them, but I doubt it. If she does, I'll post a picture of that picture from my yearbook on my social media on Instagram if I find it. But I don't know if you can tell in this trippy-delic video. Let's see. I have a birthmark right here. You can't see it. But in that picture, it's my third nipple. See? Oh. In that picture, I was raising my hand, I was smiling and waving, and it struck me, because you could see this birthmark, like, screaming. And I was like, what is this about? And this is about palmistry. So, when I first started studying palmistry, I couldn't find anything out about this birthmark. And I was just like shocked. I mean, the shock just ran through me that I was just sitting on the couch in the living room and followed hot and cold and tugs and found this yearbook with this birthmark on my hand. And I started, studying again, trying to find the birthmark, because then I had the internet, because we didn't have the internet when I was 15 or they did, but I didn't use it. I think the first time I used the internet was at Auburn when I was 18. So, and that was a really great moment. I want you to try this, listeners and watchers, if you feel like it. Find, you can do this with stuff you've lost as well. Like, I've done this with lots of stuff I've lost. I haven't done it in a long time, but it really does work. If you know a general area of where your thing might be, you can follow hot and cold and tugs. If you get tugs for hot and cold, I think everybody gets hot and colds. So you can follow those and they'll take you to something. Might not be what you're looking for, but it'll be helpful somehow. And that is something I have found too. Sometimes the hot and cold will take me to things that I looked for a week ago, and it didn't happen the natural way where I went looking for something else and found it. It was like, hey, come over here now. And then I'll find the cat collar, when I'm looking for my keys. But that's a good way to find your keys too. So that's a little homework for you, and I'd love to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app and website, everclear.com, where you can get advice from psychics and empaths so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. I'm an advisor on Everclear under the name Lisa P, Leesa, letter P. And I want to tell you something cool. This week I am going home, or back to Alabama, and staying with my parents, and I'm going to a convention. If you have been following the podcast, Miss Barbara With was going to go to this convention, and she's done a couple of podcasts with us. She channels Albert Einstein. This is a convention, and let me find out the name of it real quick. Okay, so this convention is presented by CUSAC.org. Doorway to the Future, the Unification of Science and Consciousness. Is Barbara not such a wonderful woman? I know she wanted to go, but she said for some reason she couldn't, and she gave me a ticket for October 3rd. I think, or the 4th. No, October 4th. She's going to be on the podcast, I think, October 3rd. And then I will be at the convention October 4th. Can't wait. And let's see what they tell you about it. We welcome you to the first annual symposium on the unification of sciences and consciousness, doorway to the future. So hopefully we'll get some more guests for the podcast at this as well. So these people, it has been 20 years since Thomas Campbell published his My Big Toe trilogy. I guess this author, Thomas Campbell, is hosting this event. From what I understand, they're doing this in Huntsville. And it is, where are you at? During World War II, the United States Army established Redstone Arsenal in its vicinity. That's in Huntsville. That's where, I guess, they're just telling people about Huntsville in this part of it. But you should see this. It's got a lot. Psychedelic. But it's got a lot of stuff going on. Though, from what I understand, Tom Campbell, it says Tom Campbell is a distinguished physicist and published author of My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything, MBT, with over 50 years of experience in the field, including significant periods working for NASA and the Department of Defense. Campbell has demonstrated unparalleled dedication to exploring the fundamental nature of reality. Campbell's research stands out for its innovative approach to understanding the origins and structures of our universe. His work in digital physics, in particular, has begun to lay a new foundation for theoretical physics. That's something we all love. Offering fresh insights into the long-standing questions that have puzzled physicists for decades. So this is what he does. So this is more. One of the most compelling aspects of Campbell's work is his ability to bridge the gap between the objective world of physics and the subjective realm of consciousness by proposing a framework that considers consciousness as a fundamental component of reality, which makes total sense, people. He has opened new avenues for scientific inquiry, suggesting a potential unification of diverse fields of study, from physics to philosophy and the social sciences. That's badass. Okay, so he says here, whoops, I lost the rest of it. Well, it kind of jumped around on me. Let's see if I can find the rest of his bio, because that's really interesting. I read it before I did this podcast, and I wanted you to know about it. And there's so many people speaking at this. There are like you can just see on here all these psychedelic people. Look at all the psychedelic people who are going to be there. You can't see their pictures because they're all psychedelic. Woo. So let me go into this, and I will report back to you about everything I find out and everything I do. I've already made some friends. We have a WhatsApp chat with all the people come. Some people are coming from all over the world to this, and I'm like, wow, there's people like this everywhere. Yes, there are. We're all psychic. And lastly, listeners and watchers, you know I love you. I love you. Having a good time in Nashville still. Went out last night. Didn't stay out late, but I had a good time just wandering the streets like I do. Went to Printer's Alley. That was fun. Listeners and watchers, thank you always for listening and watching. Peace out.